Welcome, everyone, to the post-crisis chat. I am your co-host, Cookie, and with me, as always, is the ever-present, ever-lovely.
This is Randy. If you're a first time viewer, welcome. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification icon so you can be notified next week when we upload our next episode.
It's such a small thing to do, but really, and we promise you, this helps the channel grow. And if you're not a first-time viewer, welcome back. We appreciate your viewership for all four of you that have been watching. We are so thankful to have you here.
Please check us out on our socials. You can find us on Blue Sky and Patreon. Patrons get access to the Post Crisis Chat Book Club.
And the post-crisis chat book club is awesome. We will tell you a week ahead of time which issues we will be recording a show for so that you have a chance to read it and get a chance to comment on those issues. And you know what? We're actually even going to read some of those comments on the channel.
And please be advised that we will be talking about decades old spoilers for the issue that we are discussing today. Today, we are talking about issue Saga of the Swamp Thing, number 31, written by Alan Moore, pencils by Stephen Bissette, inks by John Totleben. So, we open up this issue in darkness. Swamp Thing is thinking to himself about Abby. He reminds us that she has died in the previous issue. If you want to know more about that death, check out last week's video, Swamp Thing 30. One thing that really struck me about the opening page, was where Swamp Thing opened his eyes, and the panel showed us his orange eyes on a black background. I'm going to harp on the art a lot in this issue, and spoiler alert, if you've seen any of our other videos, you know I'm not a huge fan of the artist most of the time. But that, to me, those orange eyes with the black background, was very striking.
I thought it was actually really good too. It's one of those things that I love about art, being a wannabe artist myself, is that sometimes the simplicity of that can really be powerful. So just that black background and the pacing with like black, 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 and then eyes. And it could really kind of like set the mood really quickly. I thought that was pretty good. I do want to point out one thing though. We did technically just screw up the artist because I remember this is the issue that Rick Vetch is actually the artist on.
Really?
Yes.
Because I thought I had looked it up and it said something different. But I am looking at the actual credits, and oh, it actually lists Rick Vetch and John Totleben. Oh, because he's the
Yes.
inker. Oh,
He's
okay.
the anchor.
Well, you know what? Rick Vetch did a very good job of aping Stephen Bissette, and I will need to make an edit on the DC Wiki, because the DC Wiki told me that this was penciled by Stephen Bissette.
That's interesting because usually I thought they were pretty up to date on stuff. That's kind of curious.
I
I
thought
was
so
kind of
too.
surprised it was I was gonna say I was kind of surprised that it was Rick Vetch because I know he does do some penciling later on in the series, I believe, and I think he even takes over writing a little bit at one point. I think he does like a couple of issues of writing.
Interesting.
So yeah, so it was kind of a surprise. That I was a little amped up when I saw Rick Vetch.
Well, I do apologize for making that mistake. Sure, it won't be the last one. One other thing I did want to mention, though, is the bottom panel with Swamp Thing's hand in relation to the size of Abby. So we always get that Swamp Thing is really tall when he's standing next to Abby, but I don't think that his immense size always comes across in the art like it does in that picture, where you see his hand is almost as big as like half of her arm. I mean, that's really striking, and it shows me how big Swamp Thing really is.
Yeah, it's sometimes you don't really get that in comic books of like the sizes of people. Well, I think that's why it's always shocking when you see them in the movies and stuff. At least when they go accurate, unless they cast Hugh Jackman to play Wolverine and he's not comic accurate. But usually it's like that's in the movies when you see Swamp Thing, he's actually like pretty tall and stuff. So it's kind of like nice to see in the artwork that they can represent that he's a big dude.
Yeah, no, he totally is. That's the first time I recall really seeing exactly how big he
I've
is.
seen it, like, I paid attention every now and then, like, when you get that rare splash page and you see him kind of taking up half the page, and then you see, like, people next to him, and he kinda, like, dwarfs them and stuff, that but for the most part, like, just reading the book, I don't pay attention to his size. Size does not matter to me in a comic book.
Hmm, I've heard it's important. Moving on. So Swamp Thing rushes Abby's body down the stairs due to the house being tainted by Arcane and his minions. I'll be honest, I'm really not impressed. A two-page splash. I'm really not impressed with the art. The only part of the art that I really liked was Swamp Thing's face. I think Swamp Thing's face looks amazing right there. I also wasn't really impressed with the monsters, which when I was reading this, I also thought it was the same artist, Stephen Bissette, and he usually does better monster faces and bodies and things like that. And I really wasn't impressed here. And I was like, man, he must have been rushed. Now I know it was actually a different artist. But that's my feelings on the page haven't changed in terms of what the art looks like.
It's not like, on that page, it's not bad, but I think, if I remember it later on, they start to kinda get better looking monsters. They kinda look little bit more creepy, stuff like that, 'cause Vetch is pretty good at horror art as well. Um, but like you said, when they're rushed, it can be rough, and when you're trying to pump out a 24-page book a month, it can
Exactly.
be difficult.
Because I think even in this case, Vetch was probably rushed as well. Maybe it's because he got thrown on the book at the last minute. I don't know. But then we cut to the exterior of the house where Arcane is blowing the house up. Pieces are raining down on Abby. Swamp Thing is blocking the fiery pieces of the house, using his body to block Abby's body. And again, this whole page is poorly drawn, except for Swamp Thing's face. Swamp Thing looks amazing in that lower right panel.
Yeah, he takes the time to make Swamp Thing look. I don't know if beautiful is the right word for what Swamp Thing is, but, like, it's a beautiful drawing, I
It
will say
fits.
that.
I think that fit. That's an
Um,
apt description.
but yeah, I kinda felt a lot of that was kind of the I was not feeling the artwork on this particular issue, because it goes from being really, really detailed and beautiful to, like you said, feeling kind of rushed. And I don't know, like, if that's an 80s thing, because with this being, I think this was like 85 that this came out. And I don't know if, like, at that time there was a more strict deadline of, like, we got to get this out as quick as possible, or what the deal was. But this is not the kind of artwork I've gone back later to see with these people. That's just like phenomenal artwork.
Right now, I am reading the New Teen Titans from mid 80s, and I want to even say it's from 1985. I'm currently in the middle of, and they have like 9 panel grids that are super detailed. And that book was coming out monthly. That book was keeping up with X-Men. That book was at the top of the sales, and art is stellar. I do not know if it's the same artist on every issue, though. I have not paid attention to that part, but it looks like it can be done at least. Anyway, don't want to get too far off. So Arcane asks Holland if Holland has learned despair. Swamp Thing says he already knows despair, that Arcane has taught Swamp Thing a deeper understanding of what abomination means. To me, the expression on Swamp Thing's face, it really truly shows the disgust that he's feeling towards Arcane. This being the same panel I mentioned earlier, the bottom right panel, just he looks so disgusted with Arcane. I mean, I'm harping on that panel, but it's so good.
It's really good. Although the one before, I do have to give credit to, even though it's not like immaculately drawn or anything, but it was. I do like the halo of fire around Arcane's head. It's almost like, I mean, I don't know if he planned that or not, but it kind of has like an Antichrist feeling to it.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't really notice it as a halo because mostly I was distracted by how poorly the rest of Arcane was drawn. But that's a good point that I didn't catch the first time around. Arcane tries to convince Swamp Thing that he isn't actually holding Abby's corpse, that it's a construct from Matthew Cable's reality warping powers. Like he just pulled the body up out of nowhere, like Matthew Cable was able to do. But Swamp Thing knows straight off the bat that Arcane is lying.
And this actually was a pretty good page. Like I thought he did a good job with the facial features on Arcane, where he kind of has that like smug, almost pretending to care look on his face when he says "oh dear." I mean, like he captured that emotion on his face really well. It almost kind of reminded me a little bit of some of the emotions that you would see in what was it, like Justice League International. Oh, I cannot think of the artist's name off the top of my head. Go ahead and comment down below. Go ahead and call me an idiot for forgetting the artist's name, but I know who it is. I just brain fart and I'm not thinking of it at the moment.
I agree. That face, Arcane's face, is very well drawn. I didn't pick that up again the first time I read it, but again, I think it's because I was distracted by the fact that most of the rest of that top panel is just generic and poorly drawn, and it almost even looks like that Arcane's face as he's floating along kind of like is missing part of his face. I don't know. It's the bad art is so rushed art is so distracting.
I don't see the missing face on mine. I don't know, maybe because I think when you picked up your copy of the I think they like remastered it and stuff on the coloring, possibly the inking and stuff.
Yeah, that
So on
could
this
be.
one, I'm not.
Yeah, that could be in something
Yeah,
to
because
do with the scans that they did. That's entirely possible.
yeah, because sometimes they do that. Like I know when Marvel reprinted Miracle Man and they went back and kind of recolored it, redid it, the artwork was not as good as the original issues.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll chalk it up to that then. So, as Swamp Thing is walking away, Arcane informs him that in addition to killing Abby, her soul has been damned to hell by Arcane. Arcane threw her soul into hell because he has that much power. Again, it's Swamp Thing's face looks good. I don't think the rest of the panels were drawn very well. I don't like Abby's face. I don't like Arcane's face with the tentacles coming out. I mean, it'd be cool if it were better drawn. I just don't like the way his face is drawn.
I couldn't tell if those were tentacles or if those were lesions or what they were. I mean, the artwork aside, like to me, the main thing I thought out of this was this was this was classic villain. The way that this was written, because it's like if Arcane's got the power that he's claiming he has, why does he just not destroy Swamp Thing right then and there? But instead, he's going to mock him, try to emotionally destroy him, play the classic villain role of like, like no, you're going to be humiliated before I kill you. And I mean, we all know that never ever works out with a villain.
Especially not in the 80s. No, I hadn't thought about it from that aspect, but you're absolutely right. But then again, we know that Swamp Thing has so much more power than Arcane is giving him credit for. So it's possible Arcane hasn't even tried to do anything like that to Swamp Thing yet. He just wants him to suffer first because Arcane blames Swamp Thing for killing him in the first place.
Which is valid. I mean, like that definitely, but it's like villain 101 of it's like you have to mock your opponent before you can ever kill them. I mean, like I think they say that multiple times. It's like why don't you just kill the guy? Like you have the opportunity. Why not just kill him when you have the opportunity?
Because he
Because at
wants
this
him to.
point, yeah, I understand wants him to suffer, but it's like you don't know the power that the Swamp Thing's gonna has. Like right now, it feels like he's still in that early stages where he doesn't fully understand his powers.
Well, and it's
So,
interesting because we like the next note that I have. Arcane recounts how he was murdered by Holland, how Arcane had to wander the afterlife. He says he met the aristocracy of hell and brought those demons back in the bodies of serial killers and murderers who were previously dead. Arcane claims it is his own apocalypse as a poorly drawn swarm of flies comes out of his mouth.
even though that is poorly drawn, that is still it's still creepy. I mean, it doesn't have to be like beautiful. It doesn't have to look like David Finch artwork for it to be creepy. There's just something. It's like the way that's drawn. It's like his mouth isn't just open. It's like it melted away or ripped away, and there's flies coming out. So it still has the effect of it's creepy as hell.
Hmm. And at that point, Swamp Thing runs away with the swarm of flies chasing him.
And I want to point out that I thought he did a good job of describing the people that had come back and their crimes, especially like the one guy, I think it was the Gus Pritchett guy. He doesn't quite describe entirely what Gus Pritchett does. You just get the panel of him at the swing watching the kids in the playground, and you're like, okay, I don't know what this guy did,
Yeah,
but already I'm getting a vibe like this is creepy as hell.
totally. That is also something I picked up when I was reading the issue. And then in what is a rather jarring cut, but also reminds us we're in a shared universe, we cut back to Harbinger and the Monitor for our Crisis on Infinite Earths tie-in, the thing the show is named after. And they comment on the readings that they are getting from Louisiana. They had done this before, commented on the spikes in activity that were coming from Louisiana. The Monitor mentions that he is trying very hard for the first time ever in his life not to turn away from what he is watching. I mean, that's his job is to watch. And he's like, I don't want to watch this. This is too much for me. But he does continue watching. And in my opinion, too, I wanted to say this page is immaculately drawn. Like, this is by far the best page in the book. All the details are perfect. The cosmos background to the panels is just, I love everything about this page, and I wish the whole rest of the book looked like it.
Maybe it was like a note from editorial of like, make sure whatever you do, you put like 90% of your effort into the crisis page because
You
it's
gotta
going to
get
tie
people to
into
buy.
crisis.
Got to buy
Yeah.
those tie-in issues. So anyway, yeah, that was our little interlude, and then we go back to Swamp Thing telling himself that this is the final battle and he must not be weak. This really is a final battle. When we get to the next issue and episode, you'll see that this really is the final battle, and I don't think I really picked up on that when I read this the first time. How this is pretty much an ending for a big arc in the series that's coming up. It was foreshadowed here
Yeah.
though.
And it's what's kind of cool is the fact that he does with this particular page, bringing back some of the events that have happened over the last few issues that maybe you didn't catch at the time, you skimmed over or whatever. That really kind of ties into the foreshadowing of, okay, we were basically being fed all these little clues of Arcane was coming back. I would be curious, like I didn't pick it up, to be honest. Like I had no idea this was coming. So the people that read this back in the 80s, were they kind of the same way? Was this a huge shock for them to see this has happened? Because we kick off this whole run with Arcane's dead.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you were around in the 80s and you were reading these when they originally came out, let us know in the comments below if that's how you felt when you read this page that talks about all the lead up that we've gotten to this point. And what's really neat is one of the panels brings back the demon, Etrigan,
Oh yeah.
and that's a bit of foreshadowing too. So we'll get back to that though. Swamp Thing tells Arcane that things have changed since Arcane died. Swamp Thing lets Arcane know that he is no longer Holland. He is a different entity that Arcane has never encountered before. And right now, Swamp Thing is in his place of power and tells Arcane that he should not have come here. I really like the bottom panel of this page, the close up of Swamp Thing's face, and I know I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again, but this artist has Swamp Thing's face down. I mean, it is just that is perfect.
It's yeah, I mean, especially like when you go from the previous page where when they first kind of lumber into the swamp and that it's just I'm looking at that now and that is really rushed. It looks like they had to hurry up and get this book published or something because it's not the best of artwork. But I guess it's like that. This is a testament to because me and my brother used to have this discussion all the time of what was more important, the artwork or the story. And it's a debate that I don't think is ever going to fully be resolved because you could put Todd McFarlane on a Spider-Man book with like me writing it, and the book is probably going to sell because it's McFarlane. But at the same time, it's like Alan Moore was selling this. That's what you were buying this for is this storyline, and he's killing it with this. I mean, I see why he is considered such a great comic book writer, and especially a definitive Swamp Thing writer.
I agree, and I will actually say this is, in my opinion, the best thing I've ever read from Moore. This is his best writing, in my opinion, out of everything I've ever read for him. And I've read some of his DC stuff. I've read some of his indie stuff. I've read a lot of it, and this is by far the best of it. And regarding the art versus the writing, once upon a time, I used to be paid to write things. So I am a professional writer who is not currently writing. But anyway, I do tend to focus more on the writing than the art. Even if it has bad art, if the writing is good, I can usually get past the bad art, unless it's Jay Lee. Swamp Thing punching bugs out of Arcane and letting Arcane know that this is actually our first battle and it's also going to be our final battle. And I just love that when Swamp Thing's punching him, the bugs are just flying out of him. That is not well drawn, but really cool looking.
I love the fact that like the more this issue has gone, the more you've seen him deteriorate from looking like Matt to looking like Arcane. Like you now see like this is Arcane, where before it's like okay, you knew it, but it still looked like Matt. And so like the and I feel like
Yeah,
there's a touch of symbolism here too. It's like not just is he losing his humanity, but it feels like at the same time of losing your humanity, you're also losing the battle.
absolutely. Yeah, you're right about that. And then we see that the demons that Arcane has summoned to Earth seem to be losing some of their power, and they are confused about that.
That I like. Yeah, there was. I think it might be. I don't think it's on this page, but it could be the next. Oh no, it was on this page where they were talking about the guy that was screaming because the woman he was with suddenly has a hole appearing in her head. I was like
Right.
that. It was a beautiful description, but I wish we could have seen that actually drawn out. I would love to have seen more of like an actual page of what's happening with these demons because I felt like that could have been a really cool, creepy panel or creepy page.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been cool. Maybe that could have been included if we hadn't had the Infinite Crisis tie-in. Anyway, it's
Sometimes that's
40
the
years
problem with
after the
tie-ins.
fact, so I won't complain. What were you about to say?
I was gonna say sometimes that is after the like that is the problem with tie-ins. I love like the page where it's like him kicking Arcane's butt. It's not great artwork, but it's hilarious. With the him slamming him down, and then he's like choking him, and it looks like he's punching him in the butt. But I don't know if it's in the butt or in the back. But it's just like it looks almost like Looney Tunes kind of battle.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. It's at this point that Matthew Cable is trying to take back his body from Arcane, with Arcane struggling hard to stay in the body. He keeps telling Matt, "We made a bargain." Swamp Thing seems to realize what is happening. And that panel, bottom right, it's half Matt and half Arcane, is just God, that's amazing. Oh, it's so good. I mean, again, I really wish there was time for the rest of the issue to look as good and as detailed as that does.
Yeah, especially because it's very jarring because the top two panels are basically Arcane taking a tumble that looks like basically a crash test dummy falling to the ground. And
Hmm.
the other one where almost like I thought it was a page out of a poorly drawn Bruce Lee comic book. Like is he going for some kind of weird karate kick? I don't know what is happening here, but it's just a weird looking panel.
I took that to be kind of like the two entities fighting it out in the body, one trying to go one way, one trying to go the other way, and it's just disjointed his body to the point where it looks like that.
That's that's an interesting choice. That's all I'll say. It's a very, very interesting choice.
So at this point, Matt kicks Arcane out of Matt's body, and Swamp Thing looks away as he hears Arcane scream as Arcane is getting sent back to hell. When Swamp Thing opens his eyes, he sees the battered body of Matt currently in Matt's sole possession.
This is probably the best page in the entire issue to me. Because if especially because it kind of mirrors the opening page a little bit with the panel breakdown, with the large like panels kind of dwindling down, and then the bottom one basically being the eye opening, and then the whole no screaming from Arcane dwindling down into Swamp Thing, the middle of his Swamp Thing's eye. Like it just the layout on this was phenomenal looking. I can't get over how beautiful they designed that page.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things about comics as a medium is they are able to do things like that. I think I mentioned in a previous episode, I'm reading a book called Assorted Crisis Events, and it's a book that at one point you actually have to start turning the book around to read and follow what's going on. So you have to turn it in a circle. And then there was also the recent issue of Absolute Martian Manhunter, two issues, in fact, issue 1 and issue 6, where you have to hold the book up to the light to get the full picture of what's going on. And just things like that that make the comic medium so cool and so interesting and so unique. You can't really do things like that, with a prose novel.
No, it's a good point, and it's you get to mess with time in a way that you can't in any other medium. I mean, like higher second play out over an entire page of like every little breakdown of that second, and that's like time manipulation is one of the just like things that like I don't even think modern artists do it as much as they used to.
So then we switch to Matt and Swamp Thing having a conversation, and we get the short version of what happened to Matt, that he agreed to let Arcane in the first place. At the same time, Matt's crash wounds are returning to him from the car crash. See our previous episode on that. The wounds are returning to him since his deal with Arcane is no more, and Arcane is the one who had healed those wounds previously.
I mean, it makes sense. It actually kind of I hate to say it because I think we've spent like every episode of this show up until this point trash talking how much of a piece of crap Matt is. And then Alan Moore, that SOB, has to come along and make me kind of like, oh man, I actually kind of feel for Matt.
No, this is Matt's redemption arc. I mean, it happens in a lot of good stories. Swamp Thing tells Matt to repair himself, but Matt says he only has the power left to restore one person, and he's going to choose to try and restore Abby. He reverses her decomposition since she had been decomposing since she died. He makes her heart start pumping and the blood start flowing again, and this is at the detriment to himself because he can't heal his own wounds. And then there's a really cool panel where we see Matt reaching down to grab Abby's hand, presumably to pull her soul back up. And we see Abby's hand reaching up, and then we see tentacles wrapping around Abby's hand and arm and pulling her back down, symbolizing that Matt tried to pull her soul out of hell but wasn't able to. God, that was such a good panel. The negative space, I believe, is what the artists call it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I mean, not very detailed, but the composition is there and is perfect.
And I like the choice that the artist made with it's like the panel, the arms break through the panel. Like it like I said, it comes out of the negative space from where the panels are, coming through that into the panel itself. That's actually something I
Yeah,
don't think I've ever seen before in a comic book. So
that's
that was a
really
really interesting choice.
yeah, that's really cool. I didn't realize I realized the symbology there, but I didn't realize that by breaking through that panel, that's enforcing that symbology even more. Like this,
Yeah.
showing this is not taking place in the real world. This is taking place in another place, another space where supernatural things happen and where souls go when they die. And wow, that's really cool. I'm gonna actually improve my grade on this issue a little bit over that right there that I didn't catch the first time around.
I've done my job.
After that heartbreaking scene where at the end Matt says he's very well, he starts to say very sorry, but his body is in such bad shape at that point that he can't even finish the word sorry. We switch to two police officers in the car talking to each other. And then they suddenly have to slam on their brakes to avoid hitting Matt's broken body, which is laying in the middle of the street. And they seem to be confused about where his car is, as if it never occurred to them that maybe he got hit by a car and was just left. Whatever. Little mistake, but in my opinion.
Sometimes I know artists like to do this and writers do too. I know one of the cops is named Bobby, but the one that's called Bobby with the dark brown hair and glasses, to me, he almost looks like Neil Gaiman. Like I
Hmm.
almost wonder, like, did Vetch purposely draw him to look like Gaiman? Because that's what Gaiman, I recall seeing images from him in the 80s. What he kind of tried to look like was the rock star with the glasses and the shaggy hair,
I see the
the
resemblance you're
comic book
talking
guy.
about. I did
Yeah.
not pick up on that
So
the first time.
I just now caught that. Like, I'd be curious if that's what he was trying to do or not, because it just looked interesting, which makes me wonder who was, if that's what he did, who was the other guy modeled after?
Right? So then we see Swamp Thing watching the police take Matt's body, and we see Swamp Thing noting that Abby's heart beats and she breathes, but her soul is not there. I don't know. This whole page is it's the art on this page is just not great. Not even Swamp Thing. It's okay there, but I mean this one is just
I mean, the thing though is that even though you could say it's not great, the look on Abby's face, it's both horrific and funny at the same time. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's something about it that, like, she looks either dead or like she's just like, I don't want to say it because it's insulting, but just there's something off on the way that she looks.
her face
That
is too long. I mean,
I
I
well, it's
understand
because
her
like,
mouth is open, but even with the
yeah,
mouth open, the face is just still too long. It's bad
it's just,
anatomy, in my opinion.
I don't know, it's just, to me it makes me laugh. I don't know why, and I feel bad because like she's basically brain dead. But I'm like, can't help but laugh at the way she looks right there.
And then at the very last page, we get a full page splash that, in my opinion, is very poorly drawn. But the saving grace here on this last page is the coloring. The coloring is just, they absolutely nailed it. The coloring saved this piece at the end and made it a good piece of.
See, I think that's why I think it was more about the coloring than it was the detail on stuff. I think it was kind of almost like a, I mean, like, I don't think he did a watercolor, but I think it was kind of like a watercolor-esque style of focusing more on color than it was on the actual detail, because the trees, I see where there's no detail, but the color, like you said, kind of brings everything together. And a lot of times an artist will make a choice to do something like that. And I would suspect that might be what he's going for, but I don't know for sure.
So with this story, I gave it a 2 out of 5 swarms of flies attacking Swamp Thing. But after you pointed out those panels with where the arm breaks through the panel, I'm gonna increase that to 2.5 out of 5 swarms of flies chasing Swamp Thing.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 with the flies, because the story is really, really what got, I mean, like, I I mean, for our viewers that don't know, it's like I just recently started a job, so it's like I'm trying to cram in work and doing this at the same time, and my body's tired and my brain is dead. So I wasn't looking forward to going into doing this, reading this. And I sat down to read it and I was like, all right, this is pretty sick. I'm really liking where this story has been going. So to be able to pull me out of that and get me back into this book and into reading comics, I was like, yeah, more kind of did it for me, man. So it's 3.5 for me. Before we go, so like a lot of people will see that I'm like flipping through the book as we're doing this, so I can kind of describe everything. So this is the thing that Randy is missing out on by not having singles issues, is these wonderful, colorful ads from the 80s for Saturday morning cartoons. And for any of those of you that are watching this that were born past the 90s, you may not remember Saturday morning cartoons, but they were dope. So, like it's just that's a reason, like I know we're gonna pimp buying the books, the collections, but also like I recommend getting some singles issues just for the nostalgia of the stuff.
And you know what? There are not many ads like that in comics anymore. And
No.
in comics these days, they seem to be a majority house ads. You know, the Warner Brothers movies being advertised in DC, Marvel movies being advertised in Marvel or TV shows, and occasionally the back page of an M&M's. So
Yeah.
that
I
is
mean,
that is something
you
lacking in today's comics single issues.
yeah, they tried to bring back the old, like, the fruit pie ads and stuff like that, but they're not as cool as they were back in the day. Like, those were always awesome. Seeing Spider-Man eat a fruit pie after he beats the crap out of a villain. I just love that stuff. So, I wanna thank everyone, well, we wanna thank everyone for joining us tonight. We are really glad that you're here with us watching, and, we do this for the love of the comics medium.
Please join us on our Patreon. We have our post crisis chat book club for our members, which we mentioned earlier. We let our patrons get their say on the book, and we'll read some of those comments on the channel when we record the show.
And also, don't forget to check the description for the links to our Amazon affiliate page. You can pick up the book that we're reading tonight in various forms. He's showing you what it looks like right there. If you click the Amazon affiliate link to make the purchase, a little bit of that purchase comes back to the channel. And we can always use that extra money. It's not going to cost you anything extra, but we'll get something a little extra.
Yes. You can also follow us on Blue Sky. The link is in the description. We'll be announcing there when we post new episodes. And also, if you could like this video, give the channel a subscribe, and comment on the video as those things can really help support the channel and help us grow the channel.
A big shout out to our hard-working editor, the Nacho King.
We couldn't do this without you, buddy. Thank you so much for your help. So, still no sign off race. We're
Yes.
12, 13 episodes into this.
We're working on it. I don't have anything. Have anything.
Please suggest
I
something to
don't.
us.
Yeah, I don't know if the comments have suggested anything or not yet, but give us something, or I'm going to come up with something really weird, like keep it swampy, baby. And I don't think we want to do that because that just sounds creepy.
I'm going to consider that one. Anyway, have a good night, everyone.